What up, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Hammered and Homers. Strictly baseball, all things Dizzy Batness. I'm here with my co host, the man that really does it all. Everything behind the scenes, all the graphics, anything and everything. The man, Jacob Prail. Jacob, how you doing today?
I am ready for baseball. Can't wait to do this. I'm actually so pumped to just be focusing on just one sport this summer, especially kind of after March and all that. So I'm really pumped to get this going here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think now's the time to get to our favorite part. Let's get cracking.
Let's get cracking.
Now, I went fancy with my choice. We got the beer glass from St. Louis, and I went local. Little Conga Crush from right across the street, Florida Ave Brewery. I'm gonna give her a little pour.
I'm pouring off to the side here because I don't have my uh, little dining room that I have. The lights are being weird. Like one of them's flickering, so I had to move to the couch to record tonight. But I'm drinking an absolute delicacy, which is the Dr. Pepper Zero, the best zero sugar drink in the market. It hopefully it will be sponsored one day. A hope and a dream. But Hunter, cheers. And I will say I'll be mixing in beers and DPZ from time to time. So gotta trying to watch the figure. Can't be going beers all the time. But if I do go beers, I'm gonna make it worthwhile.
I was gonna say, fun fact: DPZ is the only non-alcoholic beverage allowed on the show,
It
and that's just
is.
because of popular demand. Florida
What?
Ave
First
Brewery's got a
off,
good beer. This one's a sweet and sour, or like a sour beer.
what
It's just what
glass
we
do
had
you
in the
have?
bullpen. This is the St.
Is it?
Louis glass that I got from
Oh, from way
Anheuser-Busch.
back. Yeah, from way back.
Mm-hmm.
Was
For
this
goodness sake,
past St. Louis trick?
ah, this is
Was
so
that from the
smooth.
past St. Louis trip
Yeah, it
or
is.
several? Yeah,
No, that's from the last one that we went up to this past summer. I got this one, and then I got the other St. Louis Cardinals one in there.
yeah, the
But
classic.
let's go over today's episode. Today's episode, pretty easy. We're gonna go over the WBC. We're gonna do a preview of that. We're also gonna go over the AL East. But before we do that, not only does cracking a beer bring up good memories, Jacob, name me a player I forgot about.
Mm. Name you a player that you forgot about. I think we're gonna go. I'm gonna stay to my roots. I'm gonna go center fielder of the Cardinals. He was on the Cardinals, I believe, on this World Series run. I'm gonna go John Jay. Is a guy you
Ooh,
forgot about.
I like it. A little speedster. I like it. I like it. I was
Yep.
thinking who's somebody I would rather like I really want on the show that's like super random, and it's Josh Beckett. A
Mm.
little pitching action to go with your center fielder. Two dudes we forgot about. One thing we didn't forget about: World Baseball Classic. I think we're gonna start. We'll start with Team USA, and Team USA is the favorite to win it all. The betting lines have it at even odds, but Japan's not too far behind. But Team USA is an all-star team. I mean, this team is loaded from top to bottom with Aaron Judge. You've got Paul frickin' Skeens. You have Paul Skeens, and you have the lefty that just won the
Scooble.
Cy Scooble.
Scooble.
The one-two punch that's terrorizing. Everyone on there is an all-star team, and even your reserves are dudes. Corbin Carroll goes down, and you have to choose between James Wood, what a slouch, Roman Anthony, that guy's a bum. Like it's a delicacy over here for Team USA. Give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I agree. When I first look at this roster, the first thing you think of is just firepower, right? You got Scoobles, Skeens with a 1-2 punch. Not to mention, you got Joe Ryan, who was in the top 5 of the Cy Young last year. I think he would finish third behind Crochet and Scooble, if I'm not mistaken. Feels right. Then you have Logan Webb, Mr. Consistent over in San Francisco. You know, but not to mention, you got really good relievers. You got Nolan McLean, right? Brad Keller, Clevenger, Clay Holmes, Matthew Boyd, who are some of these guys are typically starters, and they're going to be in relief roles. Um, but then you get kind of a three-headed monster of David Bedard, uh, Bednar. Then you get Griffin Jacks.
We just watched Team USA.
I
That's what.
know I watched hockey, and then you get the American Heat. You get Mason Miller to close out your games. Like, that's a heck of a lineup. And then I'm looking at Team USA's, lineup here too. You got Cal Riley, probably the starting catcher. You can mix in Will Smith to keep him fresh, right? You're looking at Bryce Harper at first, right? You're looking at Gunner at short, or Gunner at third or short, depending on what they want to do. You have Bregman, you can put him at third. You have Bobby Witt. You have Ernie Clement and Bryce Terang. And you have Paul Goldschmidt, who can, in a pinch, might be a guy you rely on maybe in some games. Who knows? The outfield's the one I'm keeping my eye on because Byron Buxton is the epitome of consistency. You have Aaron Judge, Roman Anthony, and PCA, Pete Crow Armstrong, are two newbies to this, right? Can they live up to that pressure and that hype? Especially with the way PCA ended last year. That's something I'm watching and tracking. And then you get Schwarbaum himself at the DH position. Like, it's full of power, full of star power, just flamethrowers everywhere. Like, it's going to take a special team to beat this team, and I think the team we talk about next has the ability to do that, unfortunately.
I think what's funny about with Team USA is the coaching staff is already also insane. You obviously have Mark DeRosa, who's going to be the manager, but your pitching coach is Andy Pettit. As a young guy, when I get to go to the WBC, if you're Paul Skeens, who can you bounce ideas off of in Pittsburgh? Not much. Let me go to a dude that has like 4 or 5 World Series rings and knows what he's talking about, Andy Pettit. There's Sean Casey and Matt Holliday as your hitting coaches. If you're a young Roman Anthony, why wouldn't I be picking Judge's brain during this time? But I also get to talk to Matt Holliday and Sean Casey. You also have assistant managers Michael Young, who's a dude. You have David Ross, who everyone loves Rossi as a player's coach. And you have George Lombard as your first base coach. Yeah, both of his boys. Number one, George Lombard Jr. is one of the top prospects in the Yankee form. And the other one, I think, is one of the top prospects just in general. I think I think he's a senior in high school right now. He might be committed to Miami or something. But the talent up and down, I think my biggest concern is how is everyone going to get their reps? You can't start everybody. And if you're on this team, would it have been better off for Roman Anthony to have just gotten reps in Boston over in Fort Myers than to come out and play for Team USA?
Yeah, I think the roster construction does leave some questions. Like, you're looking at Ernie Clement and Bryce Terang as second basemen. You're kind of sitting there going, man, that's a weird spot to be. Even though they're great, they're not household names, unfortunately. And then obviously Bobby Witt and Gunner, they play the same position. Bobby's going to get the nod, of course. You got Breggy at third. Then you're going in the outfield, and I think it's kind of just like who gets the hot hand, right? I think the problem is in the pool play, you have such a short amount of time to figure out who your guys are, right? And if Roman comes and he beats out PCA in a couple games because he plays better when he gets the opportunity, it's hard not to go with a guy like that. I do agree with you. The reps probably in Boston for a young guy like that in spring training probably matters a ton. But I also don't think as a young guy, when else you're going to get these high pressure situations this early in your career, right? If given the opportunity. You don't want to find out in the playoffs. That's where most guys find out. He gets this opportunity a little bit earlier. I think it's a good growing step for him. But I do agree with your concerns of like you're adding a young guy. Do you stunt his growth potentially? Like we've seen what happens to some dudes where they go crazy at the World Baseball Classic and that's their expectations and then they can't bring it back over, i.e. Trey Turner.
i.e. Masataka Yoshida. And speaking of him, he will actually be playing for Team Japan. Team Japan's expected to win Group C. They're plus 320 to win it all. They're the second highest odds to win it. And I think it's obvious. It's because they led by just some random DH wannabe pitcher, Shohei Ohtani. Whoever heard of that guy? And then Yoshinobu Yamamoto. You've got quite a few names when it comes to Team Japan. I like Sugano, the guy who just came. He was on Baltimore for 1 year. He signed, I haven't seen where he signed, but I know he got picked up. But then you also get to see Masataka Yoshida, a guy who has no role in Boston. This is where he made a name for himself. And then you have Murakami from the White Sox. We saw him go off last WBC. He has a little bit of time with the White Sox guys, but Team USA leaves, or I'm sorry, Team Japan, I think the majority of them leaves today. They're leaving to go to Japan to go do their groups while everyone else is over in Arizona or Florida. They're going to play a couple more games and then they get to go. So it's interesting to see what that a little bit of a layover is for Team Japan, but what do you like when you see Team Japan?
I think it's just, obviously, Ohtani. I like the outfield of Seiya Suzuki and Masataka Yoshida. I'm looking at the infield here. I think that is something to really keep your eye on. And one thing I'm noticing is a lot of these guys are returning from the other WBC, right? Because they all have headshots. So they're bringing a ton of guys back. They're bringing veterans. Obviously, Yamamoto, unbelievable. He's going to be their go-to guy. They have Kikuchi as well, but I wouldn't hang your hat too much on him. I will say I'm surprised Sasaki's not on this roster, just given how he kind of finished the 2025 season. But they're going to come to play. They have big moments, but they're going to be without Lars Nootbaar, I believe, was Team Japan last year, so that's another bet that they're not going to have in the outfield. And he's also a big defensive guy as well, so I guess that's more of a preference thing for them. But they're the runner-up to me. Like Team USA has complete stars, and I'm looking at Team Japan as the team to beat, as well as kind of keeping an eye on Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic for what those teams can probably get competitive in when you're looking at Pool A and Pool D.
And I think Pool D's winner is going to be the Dominican Republic, which is what you talked about. I mean, I talked about a team full of all-stars. This is another one. This is another one that most MLB fans will be following just because of the names that they have. You have O'Neal Cruz, Julio Rodriguez, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis. That's just the outfielders. I mean, you have Junior Caminero coming off of a 45 home run season. Granted, he was in a minor league park. You're in Yankee Stadium down south. There's a caveat. You got Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Manny Machado, Tel Marte, and
you got Perdomo. You got Perdomo, who had an MVP kind of case if he wasn't, behind Shohei, given what he was batting last season.
Yeah, and the biggest Dominican name of all, Austin Wells.
out of left field.
I was like, there's no way. I had to fact check it. His mother is of Dominican descent.
I mean, I'm looking at, I will say this, though. The starting rotation for the Dominican Republic probably leaves a little bit more to be desired, I would say. Yeah. Because your number one guy looks like he's going to be Christopher Sanchez.
Yeah.
And then you're going to, rightfully so. Then you're going to go Alcantara. But I will say this, if they have a lead, they can go to the bullpen early. because you got Doval, you got Estevez, Soto, um, like Dominguez, Dennis Santana. Like you got five guys right there who are closers for their teams, right? Maybe not Doval anymore because did he get traded to the Yankees? Am I tripping? Is he still on the Giants?
Milo Duvall was a Yankee. He might still be a Yankee. Their whole bullpen got completely redone. But I look at a guy like Edwin Uceda coming from the Rays. That's a guy that can give you some innings. He'll throw two
Yeah.
or three, no problem. Gregory Soto, fire from the left-hand side. Luis Severino, that's another guy that can eat up innings. Estevez, firearm from the right side. And then Brazoban, that's the Marlins setup guy. I think they might put him at closer. It'll be him and Pete Fairbanks, but with Brazoban over here, Pete's more than likely going to shut the door on that closer spot.
Fairbanks is a Marlin now, not a Ray
Yeah.
anymore. But
Well,
oh, you said the
Brazoban's
Marlins.
a Marlin.
Yeah, my bad. I'm tripping.
No, you're
I think
good. And I even like the Marlins catcher, Ramirez, Augustine Ramirez. It's a big boy right there that hits tanks. Defensively, kind of a liability, but that's why they're bringing in Austin Wells. It's a guy that can come in later in the game when we need some kind of defense, or we'll start a game, and when you need firepower, throw in Ramirez. So I like the depth for this. Obviously, not as much as Team USA, but
we're
wouldn't
also
be
getting
surprised
a
at all to see them win Group D.
you're also getting a first time manager too. You know who their
Yeah,
manager is?
for the DR, it's Pujols.
Yep, Albert Pujols. You're getting a first time manager in a spot like that. It's really kind of like it's like a tryout for him, really, because teams want Pujols to be their manager. So, St. Louis, if you're listening to this, if that opportunity arises, you hire him and fire Marmol. Thank you. Let's talk about Puerto Rico. Are they the favorite in Pool A? I would assume
Yes.
so, right?
Yep, and they've got a 13-1 odds to win the whole tournament. So they are the fourth. Obviously, there's some turmoil with them, considering not a lot of teams, i.e., the Mets, were willing to spend the money for the insurance for those players to go out there and play for Team Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, it goes back to my point before of the starting lineup probably leaves a lot to be desired, and maybe I'm not a ball knower looking at some of these names, but nothing jumps off. I mean, Seth Lugo, Puerto Rican.
Mhm. He's the dude. Last name Lugo. You know he's got some spice to
Yeah,
him.
he got a little spice. He had a good year last year to start. You know, maybe you can fill me in on some of these other guys, but like Edwin Diaz, like Jorge Lopez, you're looking at some of these other guys, Fernando Cruz, that can be pivotal spots for them. But I mean, you're looking at an out. Trying to read this, a little bit of a solid outfield. Yadier Molina's the manager as well. Nolan Arenado, who was on Team USA but prior, is now playing for Team Puerto Rico. Um, you have Maldonado at catcher and Christian Vazquez. Um, yeah, fill me in a little bit on Puerto Rico because I'm looking at these guys and I'm like, I don't know a lot of these dudes. MJ Melendez is nice out there. But I don't know a lot of these dudes I'm looking at here on Team Puerto Rico.
Yeah, it is a lot of younger guys mixed in with older talent, and it's because of the insurance issues. Guys like Carlos Correa will not be on the team because of that. You have Francisco Lindor, who is also dealing with an injury. I think he fractured that ham bone,
The hand?
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what
The
it is.
carpals.
He's
The
dealing with that.
metacarpals.
He should be ready for opening day, and we'll touch upon that when we get to the Mets. But regardless, without his insurance, he wasn't playing. And Bad Bunny did say he was willing to pick up the insurance for some of these people. But, I mean, when you lose Lindor and you lose Carlos Correa and you get a guy like Aaron Nolan or Nolan Arenado to fill it in, it's a big miss that you're having. And your catcher staff is Christian Vasquez, who I love, but is getting up there in age. And Martin Maldonado just can't play to the MLB level. I think he would be fine in like a Dominican league or something like that. He still has the juice for it and clearly the passion to be a part of this. it's a good old catching staff. However, I just question the legs underneath them. When it comes to the infield, you have young guys like Arroyo, Hernaz, and Vasquez, who I hope the lights aren't too bright for them because I have faith in Nolan Arenado and even Rivera. I have some faith in, but MJ Melendez is going to be who you're going to lean on. Eddie Rosario, who had the big moment in 2019 with the Braves, you're going to lean on him. Willie Castro and Ramos are probably going to be those are going to be your three outfielders as well as the DH. And the pitching staff honestly leaves a lot to be desired. I mean, you do have a lot of young arms, inexperienced arms, and you look at the headshots, brother. Like we have a double A pitcher immediately. You have a Salem Cardinal. Like we we know we're young and inexperienced. You need Jose Leon to bridge the gap. You need Seth Lugo to go 6 or 7, or like Jorge Lopez to get you innings. You need Edwin Diaz to just shut the door. He's got to be the big guy that comes in and just shuts it. They are. I mean, Puerto Rico is expected to win Group A, and it's kind of the easiest group of them all. That's why. Next up would be Team Canada, and they've got Freddie Freeman, and that's it. Like it,
Huh.
Puerto Rico should win Group A, but whoever they play, whether it is Team USA or Japan, which is what I would imagine they would play, it's almost like a layup to get through. And I shouldn't say layup, but the talent gap is just too wide of a margin. I'm gonna wrap up the rest of the
I
odds.
want
So
to.
basically,
Oh,
mhm,
hold on. I want to touch upon one more team that I think can make some noise because I was just looking at their roster.
mhm,
Team Venezuela.
mhm.
They got. I'm maybe they you were about to mention their odds, but I'm looking at this roster, man, and this lineup is jam packed with bats. Pitching leaves a little bit more to be desired, but again, you're looking at Eduardo Rodriguez, Ranger Suarez, Ermain Marquez, Pablo Lopez, right? You can go to Alvarado. Good luck. It's a 50-50 shot with him, right? But then you're looking at the bats, man. You got William Contreras and Salvi Perez at catcher, right? More than likely, Perez is the DH. William will be the catcher. But then your infield is Luis Arias, Wilson Contreras, Michael Garcia, Eugenio Suarez, Gleyber Torres, Tovar, Andres Jimenez. Oh, then let me give you the outfield. Javier Sanoja, Willier Abreu, Jackson Churio, and just some guy named Ronald Acuna Jr.
It barely plays.
That's a lot. That's a lot of bats in that lineup. You're looking at Eugenio Suarez, who had a major role in the playoffs. Michael Garcia had a breakout season last year for the Royals. You know Acuna, when he's fully healthy, is an MVP guy. Churio's growing. You got Mr. Consistency with the bat in Arias. Like, that's a team like them and the Dominican Republic are going to battle it out in Group D. And I will say, very happy Team USA is not in that group.
Well, I really like the pit or the coaching staff. I mean, it's led by Omar Lopez, but then you have Mickey. I mean, Miguel Cabrera is going to be in there. Gerardo Parra, a longtime outfielder with the Diamondbacks. Victor Martinez, a big name that we all know. The pitching coach is Johan Santana, the longtime twin. I mean, like you said it, this is a team filled with stars. Also, the outfield, nothing's falling. And you have Ronald Acuna Jr. He's probably going to be either in left or center. Willier's going to man the right field. Two-time Gold Glove winner, and then Jackson Churio out there, absolute stud. Whoa, stud. Man, that was crazy. The infield is
Hmm.
going to be tough as well. I really like the depth. I think you're right. I think Contreras will end up starting at catcher. Salvi just doesn't have the legs anymore. But with this, I don't question Ranger Suarez. I question German Marquez. How consistent is he going to be? Pablo Lopez. How consistent are we going to be? Eduardo Rodriguez, Erod, never been the most consistent guy. Always been in the threes and the fours when it comes to ERA. And then you have Jose Alvarado. When he's on, he's on. But when he is off, good God,
He he is
he's
off.
off.
He's off.
So if Venezuela gets hot and just cooks, that's a scary team. But it could very well be a pitching meltdown one game that just ends the whole tournament. But Venezuela was going to be the next team. They have 15-1 odds to win it all. Behind that is Mexico. That's led by Jaron Duran and the boys. They're at 22-1. Team Canada 35-1. They have Freddie Freeman. And then C is Team Korea, also 35-1 odds. But as I flip the note page, enough with the worlds. Let's talk about the states. And I think we're going to start with the AL East, just because
Let's go.
that's the next one that's on here. The first team I have written down is the Boston Red Sox. Why? Because I'm a homer. I go on and on about it, but if you really, really wanted a deep dive into the Boston Red Sox, I give it to you real quick. The departures are painful. When you look at what the Red Sox had a year ago to today, brutal. You were a team that had Rafael Devers and Alex Bregman, and we fast forward 365 days, and you have neither. Do you think you got better? I can tell you one thing: you lose those two bats, you did not get better. Who could you find to replace them? You went with a third place rookie of the year and Caleb Durbin to go and finish them. But the departures, Bregman, Giolito, Liam Hendricks, who granted was going through injuries and cancer. He tried to come back, just couldn't. You traded for Hicks. You lost him. Get rid of him. Thank goodness. Kyle Harrison made one or two starts at the big league level last year for the Red Sox. Was solid. David Hamilton, you get rid of him, which is crazy because you could have got rid of him last year for uh, the dude from the Mariners, Luis Castillo. There was a trade on there, and they said no because they didn't want to get rid of David Hamilton. You have DFA Nathaniel Lowe and Josh Winkowski. Those were obvious additions. Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, Wilson Contreras, Jonathan Oviedo, Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, IKF, and Matt Thaisis. Matt Thaisis is going to be just that another option for catcher. They have about 7 catchers that they signed in the offseason, but it leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to the Red Sox. And for whatever reason, a lot of people have them winning 90 plus games. I think they're going to come in fourth. I think everyone around you but the Rays got better, and I think you got worse. The lineup on paper doesn't sound awful, but it's the consistency and the health that's been struggling for the Red Sox. You're going to have the projected lineup I have here is Jared Duran, Trevor Story, Roman Anthony, Wilson Contreras, Wilyer Abreu, Caleb Durbin at third, Marcelo Meyer at second, Cedon Rafaela, and Carlos Narvaez. Now, Carlos Narvaez was like a 4-hole hitter last year for them. Putting him at the 9th spot wants me to believe there's promise, but I also know he was battling injury all year. The lineup is disappointing. A rotation of Crochet, Ranger Suarez, Sonny Gray, Brian Bayo, and Johan Oviedo. There's not a better rotation in the game except for maybe the Dodgers, maybe the Tigers. That rotation, plus all the guys that didn't make the cut, you have Peyton Tolley, Connolly Early. You've got dudes that are ready, itching and clawing. Pitching is deep. That wasn't your issue last year. It was defense and hitting. What did we improve on? Pitching. Why did we not make our weakness stronger? It makes no sense. Jacob, what are your thoughts on the Sox?
As a guy who lived in Massachusetts, I have a soft spot for the Boston Red Sox. Great ballpark, great fans, great food. Love Boston. Um, Great food. I think when you look at Boston, I think it's just like it leaves a lot to be desired. I think you're looking at the team of your infield of, at first base, it's either Wilson Contreras or Tristan Casas, right? I think Contreras probably will be a DH for a little bit. I don't know who your DH is now. Is it Yoshida still?
No,
Um,
Yoshida doesn't have a home. The DH is slated to be a combination of Roman Anthony and Jaron Duran. Like they're gonna rotate just because we have six outfielders with those
yeah, but
four,
I'm
Yoshida
not in
and then
love. I'm not in love with taking a young guy like Roman Anthony and making him a DH. I like a guy out there. I think Wilson Contreras is probably better suited to be the DH. He's a little bit older. He's done it before. But you got a lot of mouths to feed in the outfield. I do agree with you. I mean, I think defensively, Contreras and Casas is probably the same over at first. I don't think you get like a huge advantage with either. Christian Campbell, great second baseman. Um, Shortstop, you have Trevor Story, but it's the health is another issue with him, right? You have IKF to kind of be kind of behind him. And third base is really interesting to me because you got Caleb Durbin and then Marcelo Meyer probably going to battle for that third baseman spot in training camp or in spring training. Um, there and in the outfield, like you said, there is a lot of mouths to feed. You have Yoshida, Rafaela, Duran, Anthony, and Abreu, and you can't take out Abreu because he's got the Gold Glove. You know, Rafaela's really consistent as well out in center, but you have Duran and Anthony, and it's like in Yoshida, and you're sitting there going, man, where do they? How do you like? I'm not like Jaron Duran. If you want to make him a DH at 29 going into his year 30 season, I'm more pro that than Roman Anthony at 21 being a DH.
I think they're gonna do more likely a rotation of all of them just to keep those legs fresh. Tristan Casas is not gonna be ready for opening day. We haven't seen him fully healthy for a long
Ever?
time. 2023 is the last time we saw him healthy, and he had a great first half, and then he fell
And then he
off.
got hurt.
He's been hurt nonstop. Offensively, he is when he's on amazing. Defensively, never been a great picker. Never been really too fantastic. I think the Wilson Contreras consistency is a huge plus at first, and Christian Campbell's now going to be an outfielder. They basically told him to get rid of his infielder's glove. He will be an outfielder and will be in AAA. His value completely diminished the minute fucking they sent him down to AAA last year.
Yeah.
Um, Second base will probably be Marcelo Meyer, and then Caleb Durbin will probably take third. The problem with that is Marcelo has never been, he's never played more than 91 games in a season in his entire career. He spent not even a double A, triple A, nada. The injuries has been a huge inconsistent with him, which is why they went out and got Monasterio. We signed IKF, somebody who is going to be that consistency guy that we can go in there. They even have Romy Gonzalez. That's a guy that plays everywhere, but he's starting off injured. If the Red Sox are going to be healthy, they're going to have a lot of log jams. Granted, not every team's going to be healthy, but you had the health problems in the outfield last year, and everything sort of sorted it out, except for you sent Masataka Yoshida. You sent him. I don't even know where he went. He went to the gulag, for all I know. That boy got shipped out, put on an island. Get your head out of the gutter. Not that island. They sent him somewhere to just disappear, and then finally he came back. And they sent him to the WBC, and I think the Red Sox are just hoping he goes crazy and gets some kind of trade value. Because right
Get
now
some
it's looking like,
offer.
yeah, the only offer they're getting is if you want me to take Yoshida, you have to send a high prospect with that in order for me to eat that. That's what they're getting. Um, Final thoughts on the Sox.
I love the rotation. Crochet at the number one. Suarez and Gray are going to battle for that two spot. I think you lean Suarez right now over Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray's he's a little bit diminishing, but then again, he played on the Cardinals, who were terrible. But they had a great. The one thing about the Cardinals, they got great defensive players. So take that with what you will. Um, I love, you still got Chapman, Bayo, right? You got some of these guys like Toll and Early that can kind of make a name for themselves in that five spot. Obviously, Garrett Whitlock is still there, and some of these other guys that I'm really intrigued by. But your 1 through 3 got drastically better this offseason, right? I think if you know your weakness is going to be hitting, you try and alleviate that with good pitching a little bit. Obviously, over a stretch of 162, that's a hard ask, but I think you try and not. I don't want to say moneyball it a little bit, but you play kind of a numbers game. Like if Suarez goes sub 3.5, right, and Sonny can stay at least under 4, and Crochet does Cy Young stuff again. On average, you got to score 4 runs a game. Like I know that's like kind of a hard ask at times, but you put yourself in a position to try and go and win ball games. Like that's a good way to kind of do it from a numbers perspective. Um, yeah, I think last year your number 1 was Crochet and your number 2 was Bayo. Like now you're moving Bayo to the 4 and you bring in a veteran Sonny Gray, and Ranger Suarez. I think it's a really good lineup, and I do agree with you. 90 wins is a lot. I will say my final thoughts on the Red Sox was one of my questions was why didn't you get a true third baseman, and is this roster enough to make it back to the playoffs? I think those are two very valid questions that we'll probably have answered come early June.
Yeah, I think when it comes to did you do enough to make it to the playoffs, I think when you look around, which we're about to do, is look around the rest of the league. I think at the end of the podcast, you'll be able to answer that question. Now, teams that are trying to get back, the run it back Yankees. That's who's going to be the next team that we're talking about. They pretty much brought back everyone. The minus departures that they have: Devin Williams, Luke Weaver, and Austin Slater. And I told you when they got Devin Williams, that made no sense. You don't
No
get a guy
sense.
that's an ultra fly ball pitcher in a Mickey Mouse ball. Like I knew it was gonna happen the moment. Like it makes no sense when you play in a small park like Yankee Stadium. You need sinker. I need ground ball pitchers. I need all that. You don't get the guy that has the most pop ups and flyouts in the league because those things carry God. Now, what I like about the Yankees is they went and got Ryan Weathers. Ryan Weathers from the Marlins, dude, lefty, pumps in 97, nasty slider, slurve, whatever you want to call it. But he's really grown into his own. He's been in the league for quite a while. I think we were both the jumbo shrimp when he was just breaking in with the Marlins. So he's been in for quite a few. And then they brought back Cody Bellinger, Trent Grisham. I think they gave him a QO. Med Rosario's back. They went and got Paul Blackburn, who shaved his beard so he does not look like Paul Blackburn. You
Hmm.
got Ryan Yarborough coming back and old man Tim Hill. And then, not only that, coming back from injury is Garrett Cole. Now, Garrett Cole is projected to come back in June. Carlos Rondon will be back in May. So I really like the pitching additions that they had to go with. I mean, they were already, what, a 93 win team? You don't really have to do much. You're getting Garrett Cole back. That's a guy that's going to give you, what, a 5 or 6 WAR season. Now you're looking at 99 wins if you want to do the math on it. It's a team that didn't need to do a whole lot. Who cost you games? Luke Weaver, Devin Williams, Austin Slater. We already improved by getting rid of them.
Yeah, I want to touch upon the rotation before we dive into the lineup here. You mentioned those 3 guys, right? Rodon, Weathers, and Garrett Cole, but may I interest you in Max Fried, Lewis Gill, Schittler, and Will Warren? Like these guys had Max Fried was having, I think he was a Cy Young finisher as well in the top 5. Luis Gill kind of is again ups and downs with him, but you kind of know
He's
that
always
at
injured.
always injured as well. But Schittler and Will Warren, those 2 guys, man. Will Warren at a pivotal moment in the summer was giving you key innings and key wins, right? And then Cam Schittler he was giving you key wins and key innings late and in the playoffs. You know it, unfortunately, as a Red Sox fan, the Cam Schittler game.
That
Uh,
brother from Northeastern came in and gave us the business. I mean, that's a guy that we faced. We just had the Northeastern game, what, 2, 3 days ago? That's a guy that we
Yeah.
faced back in his Northeastern days. He came in and proved that the moment was not going to be too big for him.
So when you can you have like seven guys like kind of like in the mix with Weathers and Cole. You can still have Freed, right? Then you add in Schittler, Rodon, and Will Warren. Like these guys will be rested. Is this Schittler? How am I supposed to
No,
say it?
it's Schlittler.
Schittler.
No, Schlittler.
Schlitt.
Schlitt.
I like the way I say it better.
I call him
Uh,
Schittler all the time because he's shit.
Schlitt. Schlittler.
Schlittler.
Um,
Yeah.
I like the again. You have Bednar still in the pen. You have Doval. But let's dive into the lineup here. I mean, you bring back everybody, really. You didn't trade away anyone. You brought people back. The big question mark was where was Bellinger going to go, and Bellinger decided to make his home in the Bronx. Um, yeah, I think you have an infield question mark for sure because you have Ryan McMahon that you traded for, right? You have Jazz at second, Ben Rice at first, going to kind of overtake Goldie. And then you have Volpe at short. But, like, Cabrera was going to be your guy at third, and then he just wasn't good enough. So you opted for Ryan McMahon. Ben Rice getting plenty of opportunities. Smart move by them. Um, Goldschmidt's just on the latter part of the career. You just got to kind of let him kind of gracefully go out. And then you have Austin Wells at catcher in the outfield again. Bellinger, Judge, and a mixture of Grisham and Dominguez out there as well. And then if Stanton can stay healthy, you get some Stanton at bats.
I think uh I think my first big take on this is going to be that Jason Dominguez will start the season at AAA. And I say that because he just doesn't get enough reps at the big league level in order for it to be. You just can't have that sitting there not working. You put him in AAA, let him see pitching consistently. Let him find his groove in AAA because he's been struggling at the big league level. You get a guy like Oswaldo Cabrera who can literally play everywhere. It's a utility guy. You could throw him in the outfield. I could put him in the infield. And the first base situation, they're going to do the same thing they did last year. And Rice will see righties, occasionally some lefties, and Goldschmidt vice versa. He's going to see the lefties, maybe bring him in a righty situation that you like him or is favorable in his career against. And shortstop Volpe hurt his shoulder early last year, and he played the whole season. I think he had a partial torn labrum and then another tear in his rotator cuff. So in the offseason, he went to go get that fixed. And I'm not sure if he's going to be ready for opening day. I don't think so. But at that point, you have Jose Caballero, who is one of the top stolen base guys in the league. That's a guy that is a pesky defensive guy, also wants to play anywhere and everywhere. You can put him anywhere. He played right field for them for a game. He's going to give you solid shortstop work. You don't have to worry about him. He's going to get on base. He's going to steal bags. He's going to make things happen. I think he makes the Yankees more dangerous than Volpe ever could. But I think a healthy Volpe just gives you a different energy, and that's our guy. Is that feel whenever Volpe's there, and that's why Booney will never let him go. He knew the injury that he was dealing with and didn't want to let everyone know. Said it in the off season, and it almost felt like a cop out. But I think letting it kind of soak in and marinate, and then you go back and go, yeah, he was grimacing a lot at times. He probably was injured. And it makes sense why his offense went down and his defense went down. And it wasn't the range, it was always the throws. So when you're grimacing in pain, it's hard to play. It's hard to work. It's hard to do anything when you're in pain. I think the Blue Jays are the favorites. But if I'm being honest, I think the Yankees are going to win the AL East. And I hate to say that, but I just see this team as too talented to not win the East. We'll see about the AL in total.
My question for them was, as a whole for a team, can you get over the hump, and will they have enough quality hitting and pitching come October? Those things have to work in tandem, I think, for them to get over the hump. I think they had the pitching at times last year, the hitting at times. They put it together for stretches, but then when they hit the playoffs, your MVP guy kind of fades away a little bit. Bellinger fades away.
Little just disappears in October.
Yeah. It's like you got to have enough quality hitting and pitching in October. And that's, I think, a question mark for me that I've had for them in years previous. Where do you want to go next? You want to go Blue Jays or you want to go Baltimore? You want to keep it in the States or are we going to Canada?
I'm gonna keep it in the States, but I have the Rays next.
Yeah, we can go Rays.
Because they're pretty sad.
The Rays are bad. Let's just
we're gonna go over the departure, and in short, it's anyone worth a shit.
Yep.
It is. So they traded away Brandon Lau, they traded away Josh Lowe, and then you gave up Pete Fairbanks, Bob Seymour, Forrest Whitley, Tristan Gray, Cameron Misner, and Christopher Morel. You
Shane
also
Baz.
traded away Shane Baz. You also traded away Jake Mangum. Anyone worth a damn is gone. And who did you get back in addition to that? We have Gavin Lux, Cedric Mullins, and Jake Fraley. Do we think we got better?
Nope.
Hell no. You do get back Shane McClanahan, which is a bonus, until you trade him away in 3 months. We know how this goes for the Rays. Somebody gets injured. Like, this is the year Drew Rasmussen and Shane McClanahan get traded away. The fact that you're signing Steven Matz and want to make him a starter again, do we not believe in Joe Boyle? Do we not have the development down below? I mean, you let Forrest Whitley leave. It was a top pitching prospect, and you let him walk to go to Japan. Why is he not getting the opportunities here in Tampa? You went and signed Nick Martinez, who had a very solid, very good season for the Reds last year. But why are we not developing talent? It's like Christopher Morel cost you games last year. You traded away Curtis Meade last year. That was a big prospect. Granted, yes, he played third base, same as Junior Caminario. But we're just not developing. Their projected lineup is going to be Chandler Simpson, who I love, an absolute speedster that just is so gritty. Yandy Diaz, who's another one I'm expecting to leave at any time. Jonathan Aranda, would not be surprised if they traded him away. That's just how the Rays operate. We're in Tampa. Anyone that's good, they're going to get traded away. We stopped buying jerseys a long time ago. Batting fourth would be Junior Caminario, then Cedric Mullins, Gavin Lux, Jake Fraley, Hunter Fiducia, the catcher. They keep rotating their catchers all day. And then you have Taylor Walls at short, who I think will start off there, but they also have Carson Williams, who won the Platinum Gold Glove in the minor leagues 2 years ago. Had some time last year. Will be fighting against Taylor Walls. I think Taylor Walls' glove is just too good, and that's where Carson does shine with the glove. We expected more with the bat. I don't want to say he'll start AAA to get his bat speed there. I think his spring training matters. And then the rotation, I touched upon it. Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Ryan Pepio, Steven Matz, and Nick Martinez. Jacob, what's your question for the Rays?
My question for the Rays was, what is the plan in Tampa? Like, what's the plan? Because but besides the stadium aspect of it, but like, what's the plan with these guys? Like, I sit here and I go, they had a great roster last year. When you kind of look at it, right? You mentioned Brandon Lau and Josh Lowe, right? You had Shane Baz and I don't think Taj Bradley still on this team, or is he gone now too?
No, Taj got shipped away to Minnesota last trade.
Last trade deadline. It's just like, for what, or is it for what is the plan? I think is the plan to win. And granted, granted, the Rays have done more with less. By no means am I questioning the method to the madness, I think, at times. But when you got some franchise guys and guys that are homegrown, they do what they always do is like they ship them at kind of the peak of their not their like most of them at the peak of what their performance is. Granted, the only one that's kind of blown up in their face was Tyler Glasnow. But like they couldn't afford him to come back apparently. And then when you finally do spend the money, the guy's in love with a 14-year-old. Like I don't know like what's the plan because I'm looking at Jake Fraley, Gavin Lux, Mullins, and Chandler Simpson. Chandler Simpson I think is the plan out in center field, but you got three guys here who are going to eat up big league minutes. Right? And then I'm looking at the infield. You mentioned a guy like Carson Williams. Like, when is he going to get a shot? Right? And then you look at the pitching.
Last year, Carson Williams did get some reps last year, but he was supposed to be power, and he's got way too big of a swing, and he needs to cut it down. That's the issue with Carson.
But I look at this pitching lineup, and how are you going? How are you guys going to trot this lineup out and tell your fan base you're competitive? Again, it goes back to a bigger issue with the MLB, but like you're throwing out Shane McClanahan as your ace again for what 15 games before he blows his arm out again and has some rogue injury for the fourth year in a row, right? Then you have Rasmussen who's aight. Then you have Pepiot and Matz and Martinez, which as a Cardinals fan, you don't want Steven Matz as your starter. He's a good reliever. Good reliever. And then your relievers, like you have Clevenger and you mentioned Uceda. Obviously, we've mentioned some other guys in here, Griffin Jacks. But like, I just don't know how you guys trot this team out in Tampa. And it's like, hey guys, we're going to try and be competitive. And it's like, you're not even close to being competitive with a roster like this. It just feels like you had a massive hole in the ship and you try to fix it with like glue. Like, I don't know. There's leaks everywhere. You're not doing a good job patching up the hole. Like, it's a bad roster for what I think. I think last year's roster is better than this year's, and I think that's and maybe they prove me wrong. I like the infield though, of Yanni Jr. and Wall, so I don't hate that. But you're gonna try out Gavin Lux and Jake Fraley and Cedric Mullins and some guys who just their value has never been lower.
Yeah, I was looking in the farm to see what's coming up, and Carson Williams is top. But I remember Xavier Isaac had so much pop, and he dropped. And he's in Double A, and going from High A to Double A is the biggest jump of all of them. So that tells me he struggled in Double A big time. And you have Jacob Melton, who's going to be ready, and I think he was in a trade piece. Yeah, he was in a trade piece with Houston. He's MLB ready. Carson Williams, MLB ready. But other than that, everyone is Double A or lower other than Trey Morgan. And Trey Morgan's first base outfield. Like, he's a corner outfield who's on the LSU team that won it all with Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz. He was that big first baseman for them, the lefty. And someone like that, I mean, he's only going to get a call-up if you ship out Jonathan Arando or Yandy Diaz. And I think both are suitable, like what they like to do, and pick out guys once they hit their peak value. Other than that, I mean, maybe put him in the corner. Jake Fraley, move him over in right field. If Chandler, or I should say, if Cedric Mullins has a big year, he's on a 1-year contract, you trade him to somebody for a rental. You just move Chandler over to center, and then you could bring up a Trey Morgan and put him out there. But their outfielders from last year, they traded them all. That's the most insane thing that I've seen. Like, Cameron Misner, gone. You have Josh Lowe, gone. You Got rid of Christopher Morale, who was terrible, but he still played outfield for you. Gone. You had Jake Mangum. Gone. That's a scrappy dude from Mississippi State. Just the moves they made hurt my brain, and I don't understand it. I'm willing to say right here, right now, worst team in the AL East. But I think it's probably the easiest take I could make, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I won't even bat an eye at it. And next on the list, do you have anything else to say actually before I skip over? Yeah, next on the list, the team from Canada, the best team in Canada, some would say. Last year, the best team in the AL. Did you just get that they're the only team in Canada?
Yes, yes.
Yep. We're talking about the Blue Jays. Departures and additions. Here's what I noted. For departures, you get rid of Chris Bassett. It's the man with like 90 pitches. He's insane. Bo Bichette, you lose Ty France, who won a Gold Glove last year, if I'm not even mistaken. Max Scherzer, I think he's yet to sign with the team. He could be back. You lose IKF. He went to the Red Sox. And you lose Dylan Tate, who is a bullpen piece. In addition, and I added in opt-ins and then 40-man pickups on this. So you have Shane Bieber, who decided to opt in with you. You went, got him last trade deadline. He decides to come back. He sees what you're building and wants to stay. We go and get Dylan Cease. Big name, big arm. Coming off his worst season ever. Will he bounce back? I hope so. We went and got Cody Ponce to go in that offensive or the pitching rotation. You went and got Taylor Rogers. That's to replace the Dylan Tate. And then Ricky Tiedemann.
Tyler Rogers.
Tyler Rogers. Sorry. My mic's covering it. And then Ricky Tiedemann gets added to the 40-man roster. That's kind of a Rule 5 thing, and I love Ricky Tiedemann. He cannot stay healthy to save his life. Him and Andrew Painter were on that same class. They came all the way up through A-ball all the way. I actually got to see Ricky against Painter when I worked for the Blue Jays, or the Dunedin Blue Jays. That was a cool pitching matchup to see, and they both have electric stuff. Both just can't stay healthy. The rotation, the projected rotation for them is Dylan Cease, Kevin Gausman, Trey Savage, Cody Ponce, and Jose Barrios. Jacob, what are your thoughts?
I like it. I think adding Dylan Cease, you're taking a little bit of a gamble, right? You're kind of saying last year was your worst year and you still was pretty good. I think we can get better. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think the Rogers Center is a hitter's ballpark. I don't think.
It's pretty
is it not?
Big. I mean, I would say it's pretty fair.
It's like a bit if it leans anywhere, it leads maybe a little bit towards pitchers, just given how big it is. But
depends on your
maybe
outfield, how much ground they can cover.
Yeah,
but
I love. Yeah. I love Gausman. I love his stuff. Just kind of like the ageless wonder kind of at this point. I think you're really kind of banking on Shane Bieber to find some of his electric stuff again, right? When he eventually gets reintroduced into the lineup. Like, I think you're banking on that. I think you're also banking on Trey Savage to continue the growth that he had from last season. And obviously you have Jeff Hoffman to shut everything down. Super elite back there. Pardon me. But, I want to jump into the lineup here. There's some glaring holes that I'm not super in love with. But, again, you have a lot of underrated dudes as well. You're looking at Addison Barger and Ernie Clement, who are underrated guys, especially Barger. You have Guerrero, you have Jimenez. You don't really have a shortstop because he left. And then the outfield's a little bit packed. You're looking at Santander and George Springer, Miles Straw, Varsho. You can mix in Jesus Sanchez there with absolute power, former Jumbo Shrimp there. I think my question mark, Hunter, about the Blue Jays is, was it smart to let Bo go And can they get back to the World Series?
I think when you get into financials, I think that's why they let Bo go. Was it smart? If you knew you were going to let him go, you trade him. But also, you felt like you made a World Series run, so it's hard to trade a piece like that. I think you went with the shot that we win the World Series and hope he takes a hometown discount. But I think a change of scenery is going to be what's best for Bo. What I don't love is that we didn't have somebody to replace Bo, and you drafted him this season with JoJo Park. JoJo's in rookie ball. He ain't gonna be ready for another 3 years. I'm a huge fan of JoJo Parker. I think he's gonna do phenomenal. Um, but you move Andreas Jimenez at shortstop. I think he'll be solid. Ernie Clement will hold down second, but Okamoto at third is not something that I love. I think you should have went out, and I feel like they were in on everyone. They just didn't land it. You go and get a
Story of
Suarez
the
who isn't the greatest with the glove,
story
but
of their life.
they just they never can land the big fish. And looking at what they've got in the depth, in the depth pieces, everyone that's ready is pitching, which is not a bad problem to have. They got one outfielder in AAA, but it's Jake Bloss, Ricky Tiedemann, and then Trey Savage, who we saw was clearly ready for the big stage. Um, Outfielder for them that I really like is Nathan Lucas. He was a Dunedin Blue Jay when I was there. That was a cat that just looked different. Ball sounded different off of his bat, even in AAA. That's a guy that I starred, and I'm it's one of my biggest hats that I can just hang my hat on. That I was like, yup, Nathan Lucas, big league player, like him a lot, and now he's doing awesome things for the Blue Jays. Uh, Addison Barger, didn't get to see him, but he has done phenomenal. Springer's going to be back with age season. How much juice does he have left? That's the question. Can he stay healthy? How much juice do you have left? Kirky's been there for a minute. I have no questions about Kirk or Guerrero. But did we get better? That's what I think of in the
I,
offseason. Did we get better?
I think it's a hard question to ask when you come off a World Series of, you know, we just made it with this team. We have to let Bo go because of financials, a fan favorite as well. And the question that becomes, did it goes back to did we get better? You kind of have to hang your hat on of we lost Bo, but we added Dylan Cease. So we got better in the pitching aspect, but maybe we're sacrificing a little bit of the hitting. But Bo was injured for most of last season. So
That's true. But
I
early in Bo's
again,
career, he put up 200 hits every year. That's a guy that's
I
giving you
know.
about a 300 average.
I know. When I think about it more, it's just like I do think you mentioned it. It comes down to the financial pieces for Bo Bichette. But that's a guy like if I'm Toronto, that's a guy I can't let hit the market. Like him,
Now we're looking at something.
him and Vlad got to stay. Like, and to your point, if you knew you were going to let him walk, why not trade him for ultimate value? But again, that's hard to ask in hindsight when you just went toe to toe with the Dodgers in Game 7 of the World Series.
If you were, what, 3 outs away from being champions, 6 outs away,
Yep.
which is
Yep.
crazy
And
because that was that's a team that
Dodgers.
goes for every big. Like they have the money to compete. Nobody just wants to go to Toronto. That's the crazy part. Like,
They're in every.
if you put that owner with his thought process in like Tampa, they would get everyone.
Yeah. Who wouldn't want to live in Tampa
But
besides me? Um, Orioles. I want to start the Orioles here
okay,
because
I can see it.
I think this team is the ultimate yin and yang of what they are. Hitting wise, like you're looking at Basalo, you're looking at Rushman. Oh, may I introduce you to Pete Alonso, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Ryan Mountcastle, probably at the DH. Jordan Westberg had a great year last year. Oh, may I also introduce you to your outfielders of Taylor Ward, Mr. Consistent out there. Heston Kershad. I've been super high on this guy ever since I saw him in Arkansas, right? Tyler O'Neill, Mr. May, as some would say.
Mr. Opening Day, as I like to
Mr.
call him.
Opening Day. Colton Cowser as well, right? And then you have Letty Tavares, who can give you some nice games. It's a great lineup. But then, may I introduce you to Yang? Starting pitching of Zach Elfin, Kyle Bradish, Chris Bassett, Shane Baz, and Dean Kremer, with your relievers being. You also have Trevor Rogers, who was really dominant towards the end of last season. Be really interested to see if he can get that stuff going again. You sign Ryan Helsley. You still have Yenier Cano. Um, it's the ultimate Yang because it's like if this pitching staff, like if you get a full season of what Trevor Rogers was able to like do last season, and then you mix in what Chris Bassett and Shane Baz was, they're kind of going to be like them and the Red Sox are going to go battle for the wild card spot out of the AL East with Toronto. Like you could take like the AL East could take all three spots again. Um, like, but but you have Kyle Bradish who's not great. You have Dean Kremer who's not great. Like you have a bunch of guys, you have a lot of really good talent, and then you have a lot of really bad pitchers. And the numbers back that up. And the problem is last year this was most of their lineup last season, and they still finished like fourth in the AL East. Granted, the AL East was a dog, but this team was projected to be better than the Red Sox. They have way more hype prospects than the Red Sox. No offense to Roman Anthony and Marcel Mayer, but yeah, Gunnar Henderson, who
Completed the farm.
we
They got
thought Gunnar Henderson was going to be an MVP, and he just simply wasn't.
like a 5 WAR season at his worst.
I
That's
know.
the crazy part. We were like, oh, this guy sucks. He's only got a 5 WAR leading off for Baltimore next season.
I
That
think,
sucks.
but that's the expectation with Gunnar is we expect him to be in the mix with Bobby Witt and Aaron Judge for MVP, and he just simply wasn't. Granted, he got hurt early, but
Yeah.
when you look at this team, Hunter, like my biggest question mark for the Orioles was, um, is the roster enough to make the playoffs? The rotation is a huge question, but the lineup looks to be elite this season. Talk to me.
No, I love everything that the Orioles did this offseason. And I look at departures and I look at arrivals and that's the question I think to myself. Did we get better? So we lose Jorge Mateo, our shortstop, Sugano, who is the 1 year rental who just signed somewhere else. You lose Gary Sanchez, he goes back to Milwaukee. You traded away Grayson Rodriguez, who was going to be a full time starter. But you get Taylor Ward in return. Do I think you got better? Yeah, I do. Cage Stroud, he's gone. But in return, what we get for rivals is we get Pete Alonso, the Mets all time home run champion. Let's not forget that. This is no slouch. Tampa product from Plant, no slouch. We went and got Chris Bassett. That's to kind of recover for getting rid of Sugano and Rodriguez. Helsley, we brought, I think, no, this is the first time he's there. Zach Eflin, we brought back. We traded for Shane Boz. That's replaced Grayson Rodriguez, Taylor Ward. Dude, we went and got Andrew Kittredge. He's the one that's coming back from original. And then Blaze Alexander, I'm a huge fan of. Now, he didn't do fantastic in Arizona, but I think a change of scenery is going to be perfect for him. I think the notes that I have for them is Jackson Holiday has the broken Hammett bone in his right hand. So he's a lefty. He's going to be that front arm, that little bone like right here. So that part's broken. It doesn't take super long to heal, but with a hand injury, they're always weird. And typically they have a way of just lingering. So hopefully that doesn't happen. With him being gone, I think Blaze Alexander will slide into that second base role. And then with Westberg, he still has the partial UCL tear in his right elbow. He's still dealing with that, which means I think Mayo makes opening day not only the roster, but the opening day lineup. Projected lineup that I have is Gunnar Henderson, Taylor Ward, Adley Rutschman, Pete Alonso, Tyler O'Neill, Samuel Basallo at the DH spot, and I think he'll rotate with Adley at catcher just to keep
Agreed.
it going. That's a big boy. Blaze Alexander, Colton Cowser, and then Colby Mayo. The lineup's got fire to it. It's got depth. It's deep. I really like what they have. And with that, they even have some dudes like Dylan Beavers who's ready to get called up. Enrique Bradfield Jr., he's over in AAA in Norfolk. He's ready to come up. That's another outfielder that they have. They've got Gibson, who's a AAA arm. He's ready to come up. Kyle Bradish. Trevor Rogers has always been super talented and had the stuff. He's always been injured. So he put it together for one season last season and it looked great. Can he repeat it? I hope so. Shane Boz is a dude that's pitched great for the Rays. And last season, he pitched in a little ass ballpark the whole season and put up fantastic numbers. So, what do I think about Baltimore bringing in their wall again? I don't think Shane Boz is going to have an issue with that. You have Chris Bassett, who's got a million pitches, typically a ground ball pitcher, if I'm not mistaken. And then Zach Eflin and Dean Kremmer are going to fight for five. If not, let's do a six-man rotation. Who gives a shit? I think what Baltimore did was bought you arms that are going to last a while. They went out and got Helsley. They went out and got Andrew Kittredge. Those are bullpen pieces that are meant to last, that have been in big moments, been in the playoffs before. You go and get guys that have been there before, like Zach Eflin and Chris Bassett. Bassett was just in the World Series. So I think it's a fantastic combination of veterans and young pieces, and they're going to blend together. And last year, it was the injury bug that got him. Very often does the injury bug plague a team multiple years in a row. I think this is the year Baltimore comes to form and they shoot out. And I'm not going to say they're going to win the AL East, but I think they're going to be the team that, like Toronto last year, were like, oh shit, where did you come from? Like, except for when you get a guy like Pete Alonso, we see you the whole time. We know you're there.
No, I love it. I love it. We're going to save our predictions for the AL East for when we do our predictions episode, correct?
Yes,
So,
that's correct.
this is
We're
just
going
a
to do all
preview.
predictions.
Just a preview. We'll do predictions like right before opening day. We'll give you division winners. We'll give you MVPs, all that good stuff way down the line. So let's jump over to the NL now. The NL East. Last year, I believe the Phillies won it with the Mets missing the playoffs. I think the Braves missed the playoffs. And obviously the Nationals and Marlins exist as franchises.
Sometimes.
Let's start in Philadelphia. That's where I want to start, and I want to start off with this team for what their window is simply not doing enough for what a team in a championship window does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like I understand where you're coming from.
Like, they're in a championship window, but you're not making moves that a championship window team does. Like they did when they signed Trey Turner. They kind of done it in spurts, like with Duran and some other stuff. But this offseason, that was not the case. They re-signed Schwarber, Realmuto. They added Adolis Garcia, which that's a big power bat, but he's also a big swing and miss guy. So
Yeah, and I think they got that to replace Nick Castellanos. They were shopping him around the whole time. He was not going to be a Philadelphia Philly even before the whole beer incident got out there. He was not coming back.
he was never coming back.
So
Uh,
that was eminent when they signed him, and then they went and got Brian De La Cruz as well.
So they kept Johan Duran and Jesus Luzardo. Luzardo had his best pitching season last year. Finally put everything together. You want to talk about how, The Yankees have a great rotation. We talked about the Red Sox and the Orioles potentially having great rotations. The Phillies have proven that they've had great rotations. You have Wheeler, Nola, Christopher Sanchez, and Luzardo, right? There. And obviously, you have Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Stott, and Bohm. And they have Jared Marsh in center. And I'm blanking on who their left fielder is going to be, but um, it's just one of those things where I'm looking at this team and it's like, okay, we're putting it together a little bit. Um, Putting it together. I'm not super sold on the bullpen. I love Duran, but the guys to try and get to Duran concern me. Like on Orion Kirkering, they added Brad Keller, which should give him a boost. Um, Obviously, you have the Mr. 50-50 guy, Johan Durant, not Johan, Jose Alvarez, Alvarado. Um, I'm a little bit concerned between the setup guys, kind of the middle pieces of the bullpen. But obviously, you're expecting Wheeler and those guys to eat at least 6 innings come July, August, right? Early in the year, you're going to expect other guys to eat innings, but when you're in the later months, um, but I've seen that they were like in on some other guys, and it's just like you don't go in more, like you don't try and get a better outfielder than like I know Jared Marsh is great defensively, but he's terrible with the bat from what I think you need out of your center fielder. You add Garcia, but that's a big swing or miss guy, right? It's just like a poor man's version of Kyle Schwarber. And, you know, you have Realmuto, Harper. Harper's numbers have been declining for the last 3 years, metric wise. So, Hunter, my big question for the Phillies is this roster enough? Everyone's getting older. And do you feel at its current juncture that it can compete in October?
Uh, Currently at this moment, will it compete in October? No, I think they'll make it to October. I think what they're really banking on is they've been going hard for Jared Durant. I think they want him, and you add him into this lineup, and this lineup is flashy. You also are kind of out of the aging window for your stars, and your prospects are knocking at the door. You've got guys like Andrew Painter ready to come up. Aiden Miller, shortstop, he's waiting on Trey Turner to just get out the way. Justin Crawford, I've got him making in the opening roster at a center field. I think Justin Crawford makes the opening lineup and the opening day lineup. You've got guys like Renskonas Jr., who I think is another outfielder ready to come in. Gene Cabrera's an arm ready to go. Uh, Alex McFarline, he's ready to go. You got Corrette, another one. Actually, he's from the Rays. Uniel Corrette, um, and Zach Camberley. You've got dudes ready to go at the big league level. They made a lot of trades in the minor league aspects. They made really good signings that are hidden like signings. But if it's the aging part, Trey Turner, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, JT Realmuto, this is probably the last year that they've got where it's a legitimate thing. That window is, if it ain't already closed, it's damn near. The lineup that I have for them is Trey Turner, Bryce Young, Kyle Schwarber, and they even said they're going to swap Schwarber and Harper. You got Alec Bohm, who underproduced pretty much the whole time. I think you want more from that third baseman. A lot of people were talking about maybe them going after Rafael Devers last season, getting a big bat. Didn't come to fruition, just because nobody thinks of Baum in that way. They don't think he's that great. Brandon Marsh and left, Garcia and right, Bryson Stott, who I'm a big fan of, JT Realmuto, and then Justin Crawford. The rotation is Sanchez, Luzardo, Nola, Walker, and Painter. for opening day because Zach Wheeler is still rehabbing from a thoracic outlet decompression surgery. That's his elbow. Don't ask me what it is. I'm not a doctor. I just wrote it down. But he's not expected to be there by opening day. Got the surgery end of September. He will be back for the season, just not day one. The rotation, even without Wheeler, is insane. You give a guy like Andrew Painter some innings, allow him to kind of do his thing. He gets an opening day where he's like, I'm going to make this lineup. I can work on what I need to do to get ready for day one. And that's a totally different mindset than fighting for your life every pitch, every at bat to make a team. So I think if you give him some ease, some comfort, I think he comes in with a different mindset and he'll be able to work with like Christopher Sanchez, Luzardo, and Nola and pick their brains. Not that like he hasn't been, but I don't know. That's a dude that I've met him tons of times over working at Travis Matthew. That's a good dude, man. I just want him to produce. And he's told me he's picked Nola's brain a bunch, especially when Nola was down here rehabbing with Painter and then with another buddy of mine that works or that pitches for them. Just stuff like that. I just want him to produce, and he's got such good stuff that the lights aren't going to be too bright for him. It's just, can they be healthy? That's really the big thing for the Phillies. Can you be healthy? Are you going to be better without the Nick Castellanos antics? Is Atlas Garcia going to come back to the Garcia that we saw early on, or are you this? Is this version of you that we've been seeing really you? And they cut down that swing and miss. I think he's going to be insane. But the Phillies still, I gotta believe, are the team to beat. I don't know between them, the Mets, and the Braves. The Braves are always injured. They're still injured. So I think it's between the Phillies and the Mets, and the Mets are the Mets. So I think I like the Phillies, but we'll look into everything. We'll give you that probably in about 4 weeks. We'll do East, Central, West. Yeah, episode 4. We'll give you prediction. But Jacob, final thoughts.
I think when you look at this Phillies team, I think there's no better time than now. Harper's not getting any younger. Harper, like I said, the metrics are declining. At some point, Dombrowski has to look at the core and figure out, when do you sell the high value pieces? Because you've swung and you haven't missed, I wouldn't say. But now that you reintroduce this idea of maybe getting a championship in Philadelphia, it is championship or bust in that city. So the time is ticking, and unfortunately, you went to the World Series, then you were in the NLCS, and then the D-backs came out of nowhere, and then you haven't made it out of the divisional rounds since. So, I think they have to really sit down with each other with this franchise, and like it is a really now or never type of season. Because none of these guys are getting younger. Let's talk about, you want to go Braves or Mets next? Which one are you itching for?
I have Nationals next.
Sure. Let's talk about the Nationals.
Just so we don't have people skip the end.
Yeah.
Tune in the whole
So the Nationals, they didn't really do much outside of what I wrote down is they added Miles Michaelis. They traded Mackenzie Gore out of nowhere. Granted, the return is pretty good for Mackenzie Gore. You just won't see the fruits of your labor for like 2 or 3 years-ish, given the prospect situation. Maybe you could touch on more of that. I have 2 questions on this team, which is, what the fuck is this team? And does the rebuild ever end? Because I felt like they were moving in the right track of, like, you have your ace now, Mackenzie Gore, right? Then you have James Wood and Dylan Cruz heading out your outfield with um, C.J. Abrams in the infield. Like I felt like you had some really key pieces to start building around. And obviously, you look at the pitching staff, and it's not great, right? I tell you right now, Nationals fans, have fun with Miles Michaelis. Have fun. Have so much fun with him. But like you have Jake Irvin and Josiah Gray as your other starters. Like you traded away your reliever last year to try and get something out of him. Um, Obviously they have Kyber Ruiz, which whatever. Maybe I'm missing on some other guys, but like man, this team just feels like it's very similar to the Rays, but the Rays actually like win ball games like every 3 years ish. Like, yeah, they win with the trash that they get. Um, the Nationals just are like we are just kind of here. They have a beautiful ballpark. DC is great. Like when it's rocking out there, it's rocking. They just have an owner who isn't willing to spend. And unfortunately, you're not home growing the talent like you were with like Harper and Strasburg and some of these and Soto. But you kind of have these pieces of Cruz and Wood and Abrams, and then you were looking for a star pitcher and you got Gore and you traded him away. So it's like, what more do you do if you're the Nationals of like, when can we be relevant again? When can we start maybe feeling like we're going to go chase down a playoff spot? Because this roster isn't that.
I'll touch on the Kinsey Gore trade. So Kinsey Gore got traded to the Texas Rangers for Alejandro Rosario, Gavin Feen, Ortiz, Devin Fitzgerald. It's weird. He has a Fitz hyphen Gerald. It's not just Fitzgerald being extra. And Jeremy Cabrera. And all five of those prospects land in the Nationals top 26. Gavin Feen, obviously, being the first round pick that he was last year, number five in the organization. And you're spot on. All of those guys are going to end up being double A or below. So you won't see them for a few years, but Gavin Feen is a stud. And do I think he'll stay a shortstop? No, because the Nationals just got Eli Wills. Like one of those two, they both play shortstop. One of those two, one of you got to change. It's like when girls wear the same outfit, but one of us has to change, and it ain't me. You got Harry Ford who's knocking at the door. He's ready to go. Unfortunately, they have Key Ruiz, so you have two catchers. I don't hate the roster. I think it's just young. We're too young. Departure is Jorge Alfaro, who's a catcher. He's just an okay bat and a bad defensive end, like a bad defensive catcher. They also lost seven scrubs. And if I write down seven scrubs, goddamn, are you a fucking scrub? You claimed Richard Lovelady, who is a bullpen piece that is really not that great, and then a Rule 5 pickup of Griff McGarry, which just means you didn't want to lose him in the Rule 5, and rightfully so. It's a good arm. You add Michael Miles, poor guy. And then you went to
No,
arbitration.
no, we don't feel bad for Miles Michaelis. We do not feel bad on this podcast for Miles Michaelis.
He went from the Cardinals to the Nationals, and they have the same odds to win the World Series.
I don't feel bad for Miles Michaelis.
Yeah, they went to arbitration with Cade Cavalli, Kinsey Gore, Josiah Gray, Jake Irvin, C.J. Abrams, and Luis Garcia Jr. They have talent. They have pieces. That's a crazy thing. C.J. Abrams, immensely talented. I don't know what they're trying to do with him. That whole send him to AAA at the end of the season, was it last year or the year before? That was dumb. Dylan Cruz is a guy I hope you just let him just develop into a stud. James Wood, absolute stud. Then I've got Dylan Lyle coming in at four-hole hitter DH. That's a name I had no idea about until I wrote it down, and I'm gonna do more research on him. Luis Garcia Jr. was good for me in fantasy last year, so I like him a lot. Hebert Ruiz, Brady House is a dude. Uh, Assam Nunez and Jacob Young. Nunez, I know very little of. That's a name I haven't even heard. Jacob Young, I like. Cade Cavalli's a good arm. Miles Meekless, innings guy. Jake Irving had a really good season last year. Then you have Foster Griffin and Brad Lord. The rotation doesn't do it for me, especially like when you lose Kinsey Gore. Really didn't great. You didn't get great pitching in return. Gavin Bean is probably the one that I love. Obviously, Alejandro Rosario, the relief pitcher in Double A. Herrera's an outfielder.
I think I
Yeah,
think besides I think if you're a Nationals fan listening to this, which one, thank you. But two, do you even care? Like it's been so many years of just like you won the World Series and you haven't been like relevant since, and then you had the Soto drama, and but then you
Remember
got rid of
Soto?
and then you got rid of Soto. So then it's like, what does this franchise have to offer their fans besides a really gorgeous ballpark? Like that's not enough. Like it's not Fenway. It's not like you can be bad and you're still going to get 40 plus thousand fans in there. Like it makes no sense to me sometimes with the Nationals of like I felt like they were going somewhere. I felt like there was some positive movement, and then they just throw it away. And now they kind of low key have to start from scratch again. Like you have some building pieces, but now you got to go find a number one guy again. When Mackenzie Gore was kind of that for you. And was it the right time to sell Gore? Is this the highest he's going to be? Who knows?
Yeah,
But
I think now's a good time, especially with the amount of control that you have, and then going into next season with the deadline and the lockout that's coming. I think you hope Travis Soroka comes out to be that next ace that you have. But I was looking at their top 30, and I didn't realize they have Arelis Martinez, who's a big dude. He was a stud for the Blue Jays in the prospect system. So having him come up to be your second baseman, I really like Brady House. I like Garcia Wood. The only thing I'm looking at is another outfielder and then pitching. But if the pitching develops, this is a sneaky team in a couple of years. The problem is lockout going to kill this team?
yeah, it will.
That's
It
that's the
will.
thing. It's like they've got some they've got some arms, and then you have Gavin Bean and Eli Woods. That's promising dudes. Harry Ford is a very good catcher. You'll see him play for Great Britain. Like dude's 23 and can play. You maybe have him on the bench, platoon him with Ruiz. You have him come in and hit for a mile. I like Ford. He's got great speed. He's got plus speed for a catcher. He's got good speed. Um, do you think they're going to come in last, or do you think that belongs to the next team that we'll talk about?
I like the Marlins roster a little bit better than the Nationals. I don't think the Nationals would be the worst team in baseball, because that's reserved for the Rockies. But um, it's gonna be close. I think they're gonna be like they're gonna be a top. They're gonna be a bottom five team in baseball this year. Like if the Nationals come to your city, like expect like $4 tickets.
Yeah, I think the Nationals Marlin games are just going to hit different.
Shut up.
Talking about
Shut
the
up.
Marlins, I mean, you lose Edward Cabrera to the Cubs.
Yeah,
You
it's
lose
a big
Ryan
piece.
Weathers, who we talked about over in New York, and then you DFA'd Victor Mesa Jr. and Josh Simpson. The additions that we got was Chris Paddock, Sheriff, John King. You got Calvin Foucher back on arbitration, Oswaldo Vito. You got Pete Fairbanks, Dylan Lewis, and Brendan Jones. That was the key pieces in the Ryan Weathers trade. Just go over the rotation when it goes about them. That's really all there is to talk about. I hate that they also got Christopher Morel. That bothers me.
It's just a bunch of what ifs. in the starting lineup. Like,
Yeah.
what if Yuri Perez puts it all together? What if Sandy Alcantara puts it back like he did? Was it 3 seasons ago when he was a Cy Young contender?
Yeah, something
What
like that.
if
What if
what?
Max Meyer decides to just go crazy?
Yeah, what if Braxton Garrett decides that he remembers how to throw a baseball? Like, no offense to these guys, but it's a bunch of what ifs. And the only guy that I maybe trust is Yuri, but he's 22. He's still got a lot of stuff to figure out. I love Max Meyer and Braxton Garrett because we saw them in Jacksonville, right? But you look at Sandy Alcantara, you should have sold him 2 seasons ago. And you're asking too high of a price. I think I'm more high on the lineup than you, I think their lineup isn't terrible. I like some of the pieces that they got. Honestly, like obviously you have Agustin Ramirez. Um, I like Xavier Edwards. Obviously you have Connor Norby, Sanoha, on those pieces. But I like the outfield of Christopher Morel. Kyle Stowers was an All Star last year, right? And then you kind of, I think as of right now, it's Griffin Connie filling in that third spot for now. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I like the Marlins. The Marlins kind of like my question for them is what does the rebuild look like? You know, what is you got the young pitching, right? Of Perez, Meyer, right? You have Alcantara and Garrett to kind of hold up the veteran side. You got some young bats, right? Edwards is 26, Norby's 25, Sanoja's 23, Ramirez is 24, like Morel is 26. You have Jacob Marcy at 24, and Stowers is 28. Like, you have a very young team. But what does the rebuild look like? Or do they just kind of fall into this trap of being the Rays and selling everyone at a high price and you just never really grow anything?
Yeah, I think the pitching is really what I'd be more excited about. Obviously, we touched on Sandy, who at his ceiling, Cy Young. Yuri Perez has all the stuff to make him talented. The question has always been control and health. Same with Max Meyer, control and health. Braxton Garrett is a guy that we saw at the Jumbo Shrimp. He was a huge control issue. He got it together. He's been solid. And then Chris Paddock gives you the five. It's a guy who he was in San Diego, was an absolute stud, and then just really hasn't come to his. He's been all right. He had a resurgence here last year. But you have Thomas White and Robbie Snelling knocking on the door. Both of them are AAA in Jacksonville right now, itching to make this team, itching to come up. You went and got Owen Cassie, who I have making the opening day lineup for the Marlins. You got him from the Cubs, and you have Joe Mack, who probably be on there to be your catcher. You have Augustine Ramirez, who is offense, no defense. I think Joe Mack comes up to be defense with a little bit of offense. Xavier Edwards was the huge prospect from the Rays. Very excited. He had a great. You had him in fantasy. You probably won a couple of leagues because you snatched him up so late. Marcy, it's okay. Kyle Stowers. Kyle Stowers is my huge pick to be a regression year. There's always that sophomore slump, and Kyle Stowers is one I put a little star on as sophomore slump. Don't expect what he did in the outcome. I think the league can figure him out. Speaking of league figuring people out, Christopher Morel has been found out for quite some time. This man can't hit, can't really play defense that well. He looks so unathletic in the outfield. They're going to put him at first, but I got to believe you got to have a better first baseman in AAA than this cat. Griffin Conine, his pops was Mr. Marlin. You know he ain't going nowhere, and he wants to be here. Connor Norby and then Owen Cassey, who I said. DH wise, Graham Foley, he's going to platoon with Connor Norby at third. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get in at DH, so Conine will be on the bench as well. But the pitching depth is what's needed. And I have Paddock as the five, get the edge over Jansen Junk, Adam Mazer, Ryan Gusto, who was really good last year at spurts for the Astros, and then Bradley Baylock. I think Paddock makes it. I think Gusto will probably be in the bullpen, like a long relief guy. If one of your guys gets banged around pretty early in the game, Gusto can go eat up some innings. This game's wrap. One of those. But that's pretty much it for the Marlins. They have one of the longest odds to win the World Series, and rightfully so. And I don't think there's really much to talk about them other than I think they're about 2 or 3 years away, kind of like the Nats. Well, no, yeah, no, I'd stick with that. They're about 2 or 3 years away. But somebody who's ready now is a team that was just in Tampa. That's the Mets. I think the Mets are ready now, and I think they have to be ready. You don't just give up the assets that you had and not think long term. You don't let Pete Alonso walk out the door if you don't have a guy like Bo Bichette ready to roll. We got rid of Brandon Nimmo, Edwin Diaz, Jeff McNeil, Sterling Marte, and Frankie Montas. Frankie was injured coming back. Didn't look great last year, so no surprise they let him go. But arrivals for them, we got Bo Bichette, Jorge Polanco, Devin Williams, who now in a bigger ballpark where it's a little more pitcher friendly. Those fly balls won't kill you. Marcus Semien, Luis Roberts Jr., who is finally out of the White Sox organization, and Luke Weaver, another fly ball pitcher getting out of the Mickey Mouse ballpark. I also forgot to mention that they traded just for some starter. This guy named Freddie Peralta. Maybe we've heard of him. We got Freddie Peralta, Nolan McLean, Clay Holmes, Sean Manaea, and David Peterson. And then you have Cody Senga, who's kind of on the outskirts of that. Maybe makes the 5 over David Peterson, but interesting to see the lineup. The lineup is probably where you want to talk about, Jacob. Jacob, tell me about that lineup.
Yeah, the lineup is where I want to go. Obviously, at catcher, you got Alvarez. The infield, I really like. Obviously, Lindor and Bichette. Really interesting to see if they move Bichette to second or if those two guys alternate. He's going to third. Where's Brett Beatty?
At third base.
Where's Brett Beatty going?
I got Beatty being the DH because you're going to have Semien at second, Lindor at short, and then Bichette at third. Jorge Blanco is going to play first. Lindor is injured right now, so Beatty will slide into that
third for now.
Spot. They want Bo taking reps at third. That's going to be where he's at.
So, I like the lineup, though, of Bichette, when Lindor is healthy, Beatty, Blanco, Semien. Like, that's a tough 2 through 5 or 3 through 6 right there, depending on, where you slot in Soto. Soto's typically around the number 2 slot at times. Depends on where you want to slide in Luis Roberts, right? Depends if you want to slide him at 4, the 3. Do you want to keep him in that 5, right? To not take away from like Lindor or Bichette. And then you have MJ Melendez, who I'm really excited to see get more at-bats and more opportunities. That's where I'm at. I'm also really high on some of the young pitchers like Noah McLean and Jonah Tong. But some of the other pieces, it's like Freddie Peralta is going to throw nastiness. Like he's going to get you 15, 18 wins this year, right? You have Clay Holmes, Mr. Consistent, right? Love him in a spot start for fantasy baseball. Love a Clay Holmes start. Me and you were abusing Clay Holmes start spots. Me, you, and M. Nolan McLean and Jonah Tong, hopefully to get a bigger role. You have Peterson. obviously you have Luke Weaver and Devin Williams kind of holding up the back end of your bullpen. My question for the Mets is, um, I low key said, what on earth is this team? It doesn't have an identity and doesn't have a real rotation. Lindor and Soto can carry, but will the additional pieces be enough if they can't pitch? That's my question. It's kind of a long question, but it really is like the lineup is so good. I am very worried about the rotation because some of these guys were supposed to be good last year and they blew it up. And is losing Edwin Diaz and replacing him with Devin Williams make you better? Is losing Pete Alonso hitting 45 homers a season and adding Bo Bichette better for your franchise? That I don't know. Maybe you can help answer that question for me, but I'm kind of like this team doesn't have an identity, and if they can't pitch, none of this matters because I'm worried that they will go through spurts where they can't hit.
I think to answer the first base question, I think they went so polar opposite of the polar bear. Jorge Polanco gives you a glove over there that is going to be fantastic, and he hits for average. It's not a guy that's going to hit 45 home runs. That's a guy that very well could hit 300 and win you Gold Glove once he's comfortable and can pick it. I think my question for them would be: is Bo Bichette learning a new position defensively going to hurt him offensively? That's a lot of times you see somebody learning a new position, their offense takes a toll because they're putting in all that work, not in the cages, but out on the field. I'm worried about the ball getting hit to me, not necessarily my approach to the plate. Um, but at the same time, it's a new opportunity for Bo Bichette. You're out of Canada, but you're in the New York market. You better show up because they will boo your ass. Luis Roberts leaving the South Side to come to the Big Apple. That's something that's Luis. Are you going to be healthy enough to be here? Like, are you, that because we have Carson Bench that's in AAA right now, ready to take your spot. That's a 23-year-old that's coming in here. He bats left, throws right, and if he gets a hold of that job, he ain't gonna let it go. These boys are hungry underneath, and kind of the same with Polanco. I feel like they're waiting on Ryan Clifford to be ready. He's a first baseman outfield guy, and it's kind of a bigger boy right there. So if Clifford gets hot, we saw him. Actually, he played today in Tampa. It's a big boy. So, and that's a guy that can pick it too. Um, Simeon, change of scenery. Is he gonna hit like he did in Oakland? Is he gonna hit like he did at the Rangers early on? A lot of people said he was a problem, but are you a problem when we're winning, or are you only a problem because we're losing? You look like
I think I think for Simeon, I don't know if he will ever reclaim what he was in Oakland that led him to that big contract in Texas. That did obviously he stepped up in the World Series when they won, but uh he I remember having him in fantasy baseball one year and he barely got over 200 and it took him until late June to get his batting average over 200. Great defensive second baseman though. But I always equate that to like I call it the Harrison Bader dilemma when he was in St. Louis of he's so good defensively you can't take him off the field, but God, he sucks at the plate.
he costs you 3 outs a game minimum. But I mean, at the same time, Simeon at his best could homer 3 times a game. I mean, the power is there, and to have that from the second base spot, I'm taking that all day. That's why Brandon Lau's got a job.
Yeah,
But
I think for the Mets, it's similar to the Phillies of this. You got to put it together this year because if you don't, that fan base is going to call for your head, no matter how much money you spend. So,
I think
one
the fans
last
don't
team
realize
talk.
how much money that they spend, and that's it's hard not to root for that, especially when I'm like I want them to do well because of how I like the way the ownership and the GM has spent money, the way they've gone
Yep.
about it, how I want my team to go about it. So I really am hoping that they're successful. I never want a New York team to win or be prosperous, but this is like the one caveat that I hope the Mets make the playoffs and go on a good run. I don't want you to win the World Series because I want the Sox to win, but I want you guys to be successful, to be like, this is the way that it should be done. Dodgers spend money, we invest, we have young talent. We don't just throw away the talent to win now. We want to win here and be here. But enough of the Mets. The last team we have today, the Atlanta Braves. And the Atlanta Braves, kind of big departure that I didn't realize until he signed. Marcelo Zuna leaves the Braves and now he's a Pirate. But we'll talk about that next week. Nick Allen is another loss. Pierce Johnson, he was part of that 19 World Series winning team. And Vidal Brujan, one of the big Rays prospects from, about to say 2020, 2021, around when they had another big prospect. Vidal Brujan was there and just hasn't really stuck anywhere. But I do like all the additions that they did get. They went and got Robert Suarez to be your closer. You re sign Iglesias to be your closer. So you have two big arms out there for 8 and 9. Hassan Kim, you re-signed. You traded for him mid-season from the Rays. Mauricio Dubon, you got from the Astros. We went and got Mike Yastrzemski, Jonah Heim, Jorge Mateo, and Dom Smith. We got veterans. We got good names. On paper, this is sexy. On paper, it doesn't mean shit, though. The rotation's already injured. The rotation I have for opening day is Chris Sale, Spencer Strider. We've got Lopez, Grant Holmes, and Bryce Elder. With the note that Lopez is returning from soldier's shoulder surgery. Say that 5 times fast, and you'll say it like I did the first time. Holmes still has elbow. Elbow has a structural concerns, which is not great going into the season. And Schwellenbach will start on the 60-day IL with the right elbow inflammation. Off the
Don't
rip.
forget, don't forget about Hurston Waldrep. He gave them some high quality innings last year. Probably be a guy to keep an eye on in spring training on whether or not he can break through and make it onto that 5 man.
Yeah, I always love to see like a young guy come in. Like Fuentes is one guy that I have my eyes on for this to see if he could break on the pitching staff, even if it's the bullpen. I'm I'd love to see the young guys get it. The lineup is going to be where you get the most excitement. So what I have for opening day lineup is Acuna Jr. first. You have Baldwin at the catcher spot, Matt Olson, Jackson Profar, Austin Riley, who just God, he was so good in 19 when they won it all, and just that's a slow plummet. Ozzy Albies, Michael Harris the second, Eli White, and Mauricio Dubon. Uh, I put a note on Mike Yastrzemski as he'll be a plateau guy for sure out there. That's a guy to look for. It's a big league dude. Grandfather was Carl Yastrzemski, Hall of Famer. So you know there's baseball genes in there. Jorge Mateo was the starting shortstop for Baltimore last season. Uh, would be surprised if he gets the nod over Mauricio Dubon, but right now that's what I have. Jonah Heim will go ahead and give Jake Baldwin some rest, give his legs some rest. It's a good bat coming over from Texas, and then Hassan Kim, another shortstop. Last year, no, I think he played all of 2 games with the Rays because he was injured. Played more games with the Braves, but a healthy Hassan Kim is a very talented Hassan Kim. But what are your thoughts?
Love the lineup. Love the lineup. The catcher spot with Murphy, Baldwin, and Heim is going to be really interesting. Obviously, one of those guys is going to be a DH. I believe Sean Murphy will be that DH spot. Jonah Heim and Baldwin alternating, giving get each other some rest, especially when we get into the dog days of summer. Um, I don't hate the infield. Obviously, I love Austin Riley. I think Matt Olson still got it. Um, I think obviously Ozzy Albies is still really good. It's the shortstop that I have question. I don't hate Hassan Kim and I don't hate Jorge Mateo. But my question for the Braves was why didn't you go get an elite shortstop? right? I'm not like I don't know how big they were into the Bo Bichette category, but I don't know like if they could have gone somewhere else with it. Like, is Hassan Kim and Jorge Mateo really what you want up there? I'm not quite sure. The outfield, I think, is going to be really consistent of Acuna, Harris, and Profar. Yastrzemski can mix in when any of these guys get injured in case any of these guys need a day off. Same with Eli White. I think there's a lot of depth to this team. A lot of depth, a lot of high quality, very Rays baseball like. Obviously, the rotation has a lot of questions. Can Strider stay healthy / regain some of his old stuff? Um, can you get more out of Chris Sale? Can Grant Holmes contribute? Can Bryce Elder like be relevant on this team? Can some other guys, right, that we already mentioned? I like the Braves to do better this year. They have a great ballpark. Um, but my question mark to them was, why didn't you go get an elite shortstop? Maybe that's a crazy thing for me to say. But my next question is then, can they stay healthy? This team gets ravaged by injuries every year. Like ravaged by injuries. So I really want to know if they can stay healthy, what does this team accomplish? Because I feel like I haven't seen a fully healthy Braves team since they won the World Series. Maybe. Like, is that unfair to say? I don't know, but I sit here and look at the Braves and go, man, somebody major gets beat up for you. And then somebody who's doing great, unsung hero, then gets beat up for you. Like, when does it come together that you guys all stay healthy for, I don't want to say 162 because that's an impossible feat, but 130, 135? Like, if you can keep your core guys healthy, like, if you can get 20 plus starts out of Strider, like, that's amazing. Like, if you can get, obviously, Sale's going to be Sale and be at the NL Cy Young conversation. Like, what more can you ask for? So, I think there's a lot of really good question marks to have if you're the Braves, but they're also the biggest ones in terms of like keys to your success this upcoming season.
I think your second question is spot on in the health. The health is going to be a huge issue, and it always is. That's what killed them last year. And I'm surprised that the Austin Riley hate hasn't grown more. I mean, Alec Bohm gets bashed way more than Austin Riley, and Austin Riley, I feel like just gets worse and worse every year. Offense isn't there, the defensive glove isn't fantastic, and it's like, is it because Ronald Acuna Jr. is there that you're in his shadow, and when he gets hurt, they're like, "Oh, the Braves, they're hurt, they're done." And it's like they have Austin Riley, dude.
I think it's
Keep
because Austin.
competing.
I think Austin Riley. I think it's just because he hits home runs.
It
Like,
just felt like it's almost Chris Bryant esque in a way.
yeah,
Like not as bad, but like that's what it feels like. They win the World Series, and then like he just was like, I did it. I'm here for a check. I want to. I don't see Austin Riley being a check. Just he's not here for the check, but he's just not getting better. I don't love the Eli White in the outfield. I think he'll plateau probably with Yaz. I think Yaz will come in against righties.
I think they're. I think they're change of pace guys. I think they're change of pace guys. You give Acuna a day off. You give Profar. You give Michael Harris a day off. Like, I think that's really what they're there for, rather than being actual contributors to the team. But
Like not everyone can make the team. We have all of these cats, and then on the bench you have Dom Smith, Jorge Mateo, Jonah Heim, Mike Yastrzemski, Hassan Kim. You're rocking with five bench players. You're shortening your bullpen. We're going 12
yeah,
men. That doesn't make sense.
yeah,
One of them
it,
isn't making the team.
probably
That's
Eli White.
probably Dom. I think it's Dom Smith.
Mm.
I think Dom. He's the backup first baseman.
To Matt Olson, who barely gets hurt.
One of the shortstops is going to get cut, and and I don't think it's Jorge Mateo because he's got the speed aspect to it. But I think Hassan Kim makes too much money. Maybe it is. Maybe it is Jorge Mateo. But I think that'll be that question and that problem will be solved during spring training, with none of them leaving for the WBC. I don't remember seeing Hassan Kim on any of the team names. I could be wrong. Could be on.
I didn't see him on any team names.
Uh, but that's all that I have. That's all the teams that we have. We've touched on everyone. Final thoughts in general.
The NL East is going to be a three-headed race, in my opinion. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be as close as people think it's going to be. It's a three-headed race, but there's going to be someone who pulls away, kind of like last season. So, yeah.
I did sour beer. I don't know how. Like I love them, but I don't. I don't love them.
I
You know
can't
what I
do
mean?
sours. I can't do sours.
They're like
I'm a big citrus. I'm a big citrus guy. So, like me, like a Hefeweizen, Belgian white, citrus notes.
this.
That's my
This
ish.
is it's passion fruit, orange, and guava.
Mm.
So
Yeah, no. My favorite beer is the Summer Adams Summer Lager. That's that's it. That's you put that in front of me on draft, especially. I'm yours for the night. Um, you heard what I said. You said you got some questions for me, some hard hitters.
I'll
We were
give you
talking
those
early.
week 4
Week
episode.
four.
Once we get the full grasp of all the rosters and all of everything, those questions will be better suited. I'm gonna give it to you in the rapid fire like we usually do. Hopefully Evan and Mikey can make it back on so we can get that rapid fire as well.
Mikey don't know anything about baseball.
No, but he does know something about beer. So might have some beer questions in there. We are the Hammered and Homer. Gonna ask some questions.
One day we'll get the hammered aspect, but not today.
We're
Not
working on
tonight.
it.
Maybe on opening day. But you got any questions? Any rapid fire, or is this it? Wrapping it up?
I think we're gonna wrap it up on this one. I'll get everything organized. Number episode 4. Once we get through everything, will be fire questions. More of kind of filler ends. You see Pete Alonso over again.
Yeah,
Two
that
homers.
boy is gonna. That boy's gonna be nice for Baltimore.
He is. He's already look. He looks good. And the
Mm-hmm.
orange, white, like it just suits him.
Slimming.
But all right, we are hammered and homered. I'm hammered. He hits homers. Appreciate you guys listening to episode 1. Have a good night.
Like, comment, share, subscribe. All platforms.